Hey, so I wanted to do this video a little differently. I wanted to do it with a different camera and maybe a mic pack and stuff like that, but I just am running out of time. I don't have a quiet home, and the best way to do any of my videos is either quickly or first thing in the morning if I get the braid space for it first thing in the morning. So I'm gonna go over this real quick. During the month of June, obviously we all understand that June has been officially Pride Month for the, I guess, what's called the alphabet community these days. I don't know if that's a good or a bad word for it. I just know that it's quite lengthy, and I'm concerned because of kids. So I have to say something, and when I first started going through these books, I was gonna do this where I was going to like read through the books, look through the books, I was going to read through the books, look through the books, like for the first time with you guys, to be like the whole shock factor thing. But the more I got into it, the more frustrated and irritated I got, and I didn't want to. I wanted to be able to think clearly and do this without, taking the time to not be rude about it, which I know I can get that way. So anyway, here I go. So I was at the library. I got 3 books from the child section. I got 1 book from the teen section, and I got 2 books from the adult section. So this one, what does consent really mean? I figured, that's a really good topic, right? And this, in general, this is actually decent. It's a group of teenagers at a public school talking about what consent really means, and it's in like comic format. It's not overtly about sexuality and stuff like that. They're learning about this is different things that they're learning about as pubescent beings, being hormonal and having attractions. So little things like there's references to watching porn or being bisexual. So it does touch on parts of the LGBTQIA2S+ spectrum. I think that is, but the way it's referred to is kind of like the teenagers are like, But what if someone's gay? What is consent like then? What if someone's bisexual? What is consent like then? Just kind of feeling out like what their peers think about these types of things. And that's a pretty decent way of thinking through it, honestly, in this day and age, because it is a reality of the world around us. Some of that being our friends. And then they're also, it also gives them encouragement and helps them to know that, hey, I can say something about this. So it's really good. Near the end of the book, they actually end up like calling someone on the phone and being like, hey, I don't like that this happened, or remember when you pressured me into doing this, it really wasn't okay. And so it's good. Later that evening, yeah, people are having conversations, and so this is actually fairly decent, because this is the reality for teens these days. And this was in the kids section. It's, yeah, graphic novel. It's called What Does Consent Mean? Let's see here. This one, I knew right off the bat that there were going to be things about it. It's called Identity and Gender, Our Values. So it starts, what is identity? The view you have of yourself. So every person on the planet has a view of themselves. Just kind of learning the view of themselves. It's okay if you feel you don't quite understand your identity yet. Knowing that takes time. So that's cool. I found this kind of weird at first. Animal rights activism in a kid book, but then it said something about banding together and attending events, strengthening sense of social identity, something bigger than yourself. So not quite, not thinking that there's cultural identities, group identities. Not quite thinking that animal rights activism should be in a child's book, but what shapes your identity? Experiences, other people in your life, places you've been, backgrounds, cultures, things that we like to do and don't like to do. It's about getting to know yourself as a person. So, yep, music, passions, things that shape you. So that's kind of cool. Then it goes into depth on families, cultures, promoting self-acceptance, accepting yourself for the person you are and knowing who you want to be. So, like, accepting yourself, as you are, and knowing that everybody thinks about that, your values, your differences. What is a gender? Feeling, masculine or feminine, and it starts basing everything on feelings. Gender is one of the most important and complex identities. Gender is diverse. Gender is different from sex. No. When we're born, we're assigned a sex. This assignment, usually boy or girl, is based on a quick biological inspection of a baby's body parts, but this can be confusing. It's not confusing. Gender and sex are the same thing. Gender is another word for sex, and the sex of your body is the biological pieces you were born with. If you have a penis, you're a boy. If you have a vagina, you're a girl. It's manipulating children. That is manipulation and brainwashing. The ideal image of the female gender in the late 1800s was known as the angel in the house. This term was intended to show that most women were expected to marry a man. No. Married women were supposed to do as they were told and be entirely devoted to their husbands. I will say that is correct, but that's because they were still going through some changes in social construct. Many people act in ways they are not determined by their sex or gender. In many places, people can be free to express their gender in ways that do not follow gender roles. Unfortunately, those are not safe places. From the day babies are born, we socially construct their genders. No. Gender has nothing to do with our physical attributes or our sex. Instead, each gender is determined by each person's relationship with the society. A person who is biologically male may not feel masculine. That's okay. But they may prefer not to be called a man. No. You're a man because you are a male. You're not called a man. You're called by your name, okay? You have a name. Tiger, get down. Tiger, get down. Tiger, get down. So this is leading children again. Misleading. It's very misleading. Identity and gender. Here we go. Here's where the rainbow starts on page 19 out of 30 readable pages. So just over halfway through the book, they start getting into Thailand has one of the most accepting societies in the world in relation to gender identities. Views about masculinity and femininity aren't very strict in the country, and people are mostly free to express their gender identity however they please. The gender spectrum. Confusing a gender with a color spectrum. I'm sorry, do you really think that the body is obviously created male and female from conception, XX, XY, can change naturally? Why are you brainwashing children to think this is possible and that they have this choice? Kids' choices should be like sneakers or sandals, t-shirt or dress, peanut butter and jelly or ramen noodles. Not what does my brain feel like today? Their brain is not fully developed, people. Stop it. LGBTQ stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. Yes, let's infiltrate this into our children's minds. The history of gender identity. The ancient Roman god of love, Cupid, was occasionally depicted as being intersex, or physically both male and female. This reveals that some ancient societies recognize people of different gender identities. Cupid was not intersex. Cupid was a tiny angel child that hadn't developed any sex organs. If you can't tell, there's a penis in a diaper, and it's not wearing a bra because it's not a grown-up. And Cupid is a myth. Leave the adorable mythical creatures out of this. And then it goes into this whole LGBTQ rights movement, transgender rights, fighting for equality. So it goes even more into brainwashing our children. No. Last one for the little kids. Who are you? The Kid's Guide to Gender Identity includes an interactive wheel and guide for grown-ups. What do you like? How do you feel? Who are you? An introduction to gender for ages 3+. 3 years old? 3 years old. Do you really think a 3-year-old is going to be the more like caring about? No, they're not going to care about this. They just want to stick their fingers in their mouth and say, push me up, push me down the slide. A straightforward talk about how we experience gender, our body, our expressions, our gender identity. This is how I get. This is how anybody gets when they're faced with something that shouldn't be happening. I'm starting to feel the snark. Sorry. If the snarky comes through, I'm sorry. Ideal for use in the classroom and at our home, it includes an interactive wheel and a guide for adults explaining key concepts and identifying useful discussion points. An 8-year-old was quoted on the back. Everyone should read it. They'll feel good about themselves and be nice to other people. You can feel good about yourself and be nice to other people without being confused and coerced into thinking that this matters when you're that young. Don't be brainwashing your children. Who are you? See, in the beginning, this all looks, normal kid book. It's little toys and stuff. It's cute. Who wouldn't think this is arbitrary punishment? A Kid's Guide to Gender Identity. I hope you read this book over and over again with the little ones in your life. It will be a new experience each time. Yeah, because they'll actually start thinking for themselves the older they get. And then they'll ask you to rip it apart. Sorry. This is a story about you. You are the one who knows you best. No, you don't. You're a child. You know how glue tastes. You don't know yourself. Because yourself is still developing. You don't know you best. You don't know anything about who you are. Babies can't talk, so grown-ups make a guess by looking at their bodies. No, that's not a guess. It's not a freaking guess. Okay. No. Because you can't talk yet. Why aren't we enraged? Gender is a personal expression? No, learning and growing and having fun in the dirt and painting with every color you can get your hands on. and wearing bunny ears and a tutu and a baseball bat. They're just fun. You're a child. What do you like? Yeah, no. What do you like? That'll change in 2 seconds. If it's shiny, you touch it. It has nothing to do with your gender. It has to do with exploration and growing and learning the world around you. Unfortunately, the world around them is stuffing this in their face. What do you like? Yes. What do you like? Grab anything, play with it, get your drool and some dirt all over it, and then move on to the next thing. It doesn't matter what you grab, you're exploring your world. Just enjoy it. No. No. Why is this an elementary school board? No. Cisgender. For some people, the grown-ups guessed right about their body and their gender. This is called cisgender. When who you think you are matches what your body looks like. Cisgender? No, you're just a person who's like, oh yeah, hey, I'm a girl. No. If anyone ever calls me cisgender, they better back up quick. I'm not cisgender. I am a female. I'm a female. And natural instinct, I'm attracted to a man. There are lots of ways to be a boy. There are lots of ways to be a girl. There are lots of ways to be a kid. Be who you are. Yay! They got a page right. The Guide for Grown-Ups. If you're reading this with a kid, a class, a group of children, if you're reading this with a group of children, you're confusing them. Let them go back to the monkey bars. And hope a parent doesn't see this book in your classroom. About the interactive wheel. Yeah, no, I left that in there because if I brought that out, I would want to crinkle it up and throw it away. So, don't do this. Do not do this. These poor kids have enough. They have enough to learn about as little kids growing up in a world, period. Than for people to make them think that way. I need a break. I'll be back with the middle school book. Bleh.